So I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to do a little tutorial on a very quick and dirty face animation, Lego face animation using Mecabricks and Blender. Now, there are certainly better ways to do this, namely the MecaFace add-in, which is not overly expensive given what it does. This is what would allow you to do some really full-on rigging of a face and do some really nice animation. What I'm looking to do is just really quick and dirty, changing from one face to another using stock Mecabricks parts. This will kind of serve my need, and it's not that easy, not that hard, and uses just stock things in Blender and Mecabricks. Also, this is my first time doing a real-time tutorial, so please pardon all the pops and clicks and mispronunciations and whatnot. So to start off, I can assume that you know what Mecabricks is. It's a fantastic website for building models, and the main reason I got hooked into this is because it has a quick way of exporting to Blender. So in here, I have just created, I'm in the Mecabricks workshop. I have created a minifig here, and then picked 3 more heads in order to do the animation. One thing to note here is that some of the heads have faces on the back, so it's a 2-part model, and I don't have a really elegant way of dealing with that, just basically doing a rotation animation when you want to switch from the front head to the back head. So first of all, I'm going to export this into the Mecabricks option. Let's see, so export Blender add-on, export. That saves it to your downloads folder, and you can save it wherever else you want. There are instructions on the Mecabricks site on how to download and install the add-in for Blender that I'm not going to go over right now. So we've downloaded that in that add-in file. So we're now in Blender, and we do our usual A for select all, X for delete, and delete. So we've deleted everything in the scene. Save file, import Mecabricks, Minifig here. So if you turn the shading on, you will see the faces after a minute or 12. And you see it's pretty dark because I deleted the light, so Shift A, light, sun, GY, GZ, rotated. Now we have a light. So this is not entirely necessary, but at least gives us a little bit better rendering. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename the texture files for all these faces, just so it makes it easier to identify them. So go to Texture Paint, go up here. So they're all named as they were imported in from the Blender add-in. So click on that. We got this kind of sheepish smile, so I'll just name that. Again, this is not entirely necessary, it just makes it easier to identify these files later. So, face, smile, closed mouth. That's the proper smile. And this is a combo, the one that has the face on the front and the back. Alright, so I've named all 4 of those. So now the next step of this ends up in the shading workspace. I've modified my shading workspace just to give myself more room, just with the viewport on the top and the nodes editor on the, or node editor on the bottom. When you first open this, it'll take a while to render, but we already did that in the previous step. So click on the head here. And again, the main reason for doing this is because you can animate the texture and it will stick with any movement that you make with the minifig. So in Lego animations, you often have hooked it up with a rig. So I use the Epic Fig rig, and the head will be moving around with the rest of the body, and then just by changing the texture, you can change the face. It makes it much easier. So this is the stock node setup that you get when you import using the Blender add-in. So the main thing we're going to focus on here is the decoration. The base material is the yellow of the face. The mix shader takes in this decoration and the base material and then outputs it to the material. You also have scale and the normal here. It's like that. So you have a scale going in there, a scale going into the decoration, and a normal here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into this group, this decoration group. You can just do that by hitting tab, or if you right click and say edit group. And this is the meat of where we're going to make our changes. So again, just to give credit where credit's due, from here this technique is mainly based off of this YouTube video, 3 simple ways to animate face textures in Blender by the Observatory, and I'll put a link to this in the description, because everything I do from here is basically based off of this video, just adapted for Blender. So you'll see here in this group, this is where we open the texture. So we had already renamed that file to face smile. So we're going to plug in something here that will allow us to change between all of these textures. Alright, so I'm going to click on here. I'm going to do a Shift D. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to do a Shift D to duplicate. I'm going to do that 4 times. And then I'm going to change each one to the other texture. So we already have face smile. So we're going to do face smile sheepish, face smile closed mouth, and face combo talking angry. Alright, so we got that. I'm going to collapse, for the interests of screen space, I'm going to collapse these. And we'll just know that these 2 outputs are color and alpha on the left here. Again, this is just so it's a little bit easier to visualize without getting the screen being so complicated. So we have these 4. So I'm going to select these in place, all 4 of these. Right click, and I'm going to say group. Of course, you can do Command G. So we now have this new group that has that vector input, which is from the normal, that's already tied into this one. And then we already have the color and alpha outputs. The color is the image itself. The alpha is the mask of the image that is automatically pulled out of the PNG file. So the first thing I'm going to do is drag this vector, which is again the input normal, to all of these right there. And we're going to leave our group output the same for right now. And this next step is how we determine between the face smile and face sheepish. And again, using the technique that I derived from this video, we're going to set that up by adding first a value node. So we're going to do Shift A, value, put that here, and we're going to rename it. So this is what's going to determine which face we use. In order to do that, I'm going to add a math node, change that to a greater than, and the threshold is arbitrary, but I do 0.999 for this one, so that when it's 0 it's one thing, and when it's 1 it's the next thing. If you do a threshold of 1, you have to do 1.01 as the next thing, which I just find to be a little bit annoying. So I'm going to drag that value into here. We have our threshold. So why did we do this? Why did we add this node? It's in order to control the mix node that we're going to add in right now. For now, I'm going to drag this color and alpha out, disconnect them, and you'll notice the face disappears. Bye-bye face. Alright, drag this over here. So we're going to add our mix RGB node. So mix RGB. We're going to put that right here, and that's going to connect the face smile and the face sheepish. And it has a color output. So you notice we're going to be trying to connect the color and the alpha. So I'm going to duplicate that just to be clean. Here I'm going to say mix color. I'm going to rename this one. So it's going to mix the color and it's going to mix the alpha between these two pictures here. And again, I've collapsed these, but they are exactly the same with the color and the alpha output here. So I'm going to drag the color to here from the first picture, and the color to here. I'm going to do the same thing for the alpha. And then this factor is what determines how much these are mixed. And you can do 0.5, but you don't want the faces to be blended like that, so you want it to be either 0 or 1, and that is where this greater than comes in. So it takes your value, and if it's less than or equal to, or actually less than 0.999, it'll be one thing. If it's greater, it'll be the other. And now thinking about it, I probably don't need to do the 0.999. I could probably do the 1, but whatever you want to do. So I'm going to drag that value into the factor here, and drag this value in the factor here. I'm going to put this as 0 for right now, for the face index. So again, we still don't have a face. It's because we have not connected this up. So I'm going to do color into color here, the mix color, and I'm going to do the mix alpha. And again, we have to wait a second for it to render. And then we're going to drag the alpha in there, and now we should have the face smile. We do. So now, if I change this to 1, we have the face smile sheepish. 0, 1. So the main importance of this at this point is because we can animate this number. We can add keyframes to the face index, and it'll change it back and forth. And we can do that animation, but as you see, we've only done that for the first two. We still have these two others hanging out in the breeze, and the way to plug these in is just basically rinse and repeat what we just did. What we can do here is we select the two images we used, the two mixes we created, and the greater than math modifier. We do not select the face index. So two images, two mixes, and the greater than modifier, and we create the group. So it automatically opens that group, or edits that group, but we don't need to edit this further. So I'm going to go back up one level, and it's created this thing called node group. So I'm just going to call this face selector level 1. So we have that. So the next thing we need to do is basically just a repeat of what we did, but selecting between that group and this next picture. So I'm gonna add in my math node. Make sure I change it to greater than, and for threshold I'm gonna do 1.999. So again, arbitrary, but it's just one up from what I did before, and I'm going to pull this value into that. I'm going to add two more mix nodes, mix RGB, and duplicate that one, and that accidentally automatically connected those two, which I did not want, so I'm going to not do that. Reconnect this for now, but we will be changing that in just a minute anyway. Actually, just for efficiency's sake, I'll disconnect it like I did last time. So I'm going to duplicate that again. I'm going to rename them. Totally unnecessary, but mix color, mix alpha. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna do the same thing I did before, except for I'm gonna use this group as the first one. So color from that to that. And again, this is collapsed, but again, that yellow is the color. Drag that into there. And this says color, it should be alpha. I haven't figured out the way to change those nodes yet, but then the output nodes, I'm sure there's a way to do it. If you know how to do it, leave a comment. So alpha to here, alpha to there. So we've mixed the alpha. Now I'm going to connect that greater than to here, and that again just translates that number into either a 0 or a 1, a Boolean value. And then now we're going to do that output to here. We're going to wait a minute, and the alpha. And now if I did this right, we have the smiley face, hit 1, we go to the sheepish grin, I hit 2, we go to that other smile with a closed mouth. So to get our fourth face, we just repeat that process again. We do this picture, this group, this greater than, the two mixes that we created, we right click, or just do Command G. We've created that group, it opens it, for some reason it re-renders. We don't need to do anything else with this group, so we're going to back out of it once it allows us to. Now we have node group 02, which then I rename to face selector level 2. And we do the exact same thing with this fourth picture. So Shift A, converter, math, greater than, now we go to 2.999. We plug our value into it. We add the mix node. We disconnect this for now. We wait. Get that kind of evil look there without the color. Got our second node here. Again, this is exactly what we were doing before. So color, which is the color, this lower color, which is the alpha. Same thing here. Plug in our factor, which again is going to be either 0 or 1. Then we plug this whole thing into the group output, which will output to the material eventually. Alright, so we should now have the fourth face here. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's all 4 faces. Now remember, we had said that one of these has a face on the back, like that, which we'll figure out in a minute. I'm sure there's a cleaner way to do it than what I end up doing, but you know, it works. Alright, so next I'll just show you how to do the animation. It's pretty simple. Now that we have the face index, we can just animate that number on the timeline. So I'll open up the timeline here. And when you're just hovering over this index, we'll start at 0 here. All you need to do, you can probably do it with right click. Yep, you can. So insert keyframe, or just, you know, if you're familiar with Blender, you just press the I button. So we've inserted a keyframe there. So at 24 frames a second, go to 24 frames. We'll change this to 1. We'll keyframe it by pressing I. Go to 48. We'll keyframe it by doing I. Well, no, we're not, because I didn't change it yet. 2. Now we'll keyframe it. 72. 3. Keyframe it. Alright, again, in order to get that one on the back, that face on the back, there's probably fancy ways to unwrap the PNG and make the bottom the top. I can certainly do that in Photoshop and save a different one, but I do not know how to do that in Blender yet. Again, if somebody knows how we would do this, if we open up this two-face, if we somehow transpose this up to the top, that would be great. Again, don't know how to do that at the moment. So go back to our shading workspace that we've done here. My quick and dirty way is to just animate the head rotating on axis 180 degrees. So we'll wait for it to render. I'm going to go to 96. Actually, I'm going to go to 95, and I'm going to do a keyframe here for rotation. I'm going to hover over the head. I'm going to do I rotation. That locks it at that point, and then I go one frame ahead. While with the head selected, I do R, Z, 180. That flips the head around, and then I insert that rotation keyframe in again, and that immediately rotates the head without any intervening frames. If you have frames in between, you'll see the head rotating. So boom. So now we have our 5 faces because of the one that has the double. And of course can play that by hitting the space bar. So again, quick and dirty, relatively quick and dirty, uses all stock Blender and Mecabricks things. You could paint your own faces if you didn't like the stock ones. If you want more control, more granular control, really moving the eyebrows and blada blada blada, you do have that option with this MecaFace add-in. To be clear, I've never used this myself, but it looks pretty awesome. Just not something I want to get into right now. Just to demonstrate the advantage of this over just, say, replacing the whole object, swapping out the whole object, I've rigged this figure up using the Epic Fig Rig and just done some silly movements here, and the face texture changes go along with it, no problem. And that would apply if you're moving the head, no matter what. Left, right, up, down, whatever. If you don't want your character to look like a serial killer with these disembodied heads, you can hide them from the scene. Select the extra heads and remove them from the render. You can even remove them from the view. You could probably delete them all together, and it will keep the PNGs around, but easy enough to just hide them. And then I've moved the camera around, set up my output, and I'll just render the animation.